Hey everybody, and welcome to today's video, in which we're gonna have a fairly interesting topic to cover. Namely, you're probably well aware that if you're working in the ArcVis industry or just making visualizations for different companies, or even if you were a company, just creating a visualization is coming to the point where it's not enough. So what I mean by this is generally you want to offer more, like in the ways of AR or VR, to supplement whatever it is that you have made or your design or pretty much anything. So in this video, we're going to see how to go from the static renders we had previously to an AR and VR experience similar to what you're seeing right here in the viewport by using 3ds Max and the tech of Envision VR. Now, first of all, what is Envision VR? Well, for this, I'm going to open up their website. And Envision VR, they are a service who basically will help you make the transition from having just a model to having a fully working and amazing looking AR and VR experiences. And in this video, I will show you how to go about the whole process from start to finish, and you will have the ability to see how a finished product looks like when it's gone through the whole workflow. And now, before we move on, there's one other thing I would like to note while we're still on the Envision VR website, and that is when you go over in the Resources tab, here you have a drop-down menu in which the first option is the Courses option. Now, this is a great resource for you to have, especially if you decide to use their product. So what they've done is they've made a CGI partner course, which kind of breaks down every single step on working with a product. And they've done it so in a very simple to digest content, basically split up in 5 different topics. So we can go down here, you can see all of these topics, how to prepare your model, and they even give you some ideas on how to price your work, pricing how much an apartment or a house costs, and last you have the support. So you can take this thing, it will probably take like 30 to 50 minutes of your time. You're gonna get a certificate of completion, and as a bonus, they're actually good enough to offer that for the first 10 people who actually finish this thing through my content, you'll be able to input a code which will allow you to be eligible to win a free conversion from them. The code is denis.keman. You'll probably see it on the screen. So that's the code you want to input once you're finished with your course, and then you're eligible to win a free conversion. You can find the code and the link below in the description of the video. So if you like this and you would like to see how this thing is, well, stay with me and let's see how this thing works. So the first step that you want to do when you're inside your 3ds Max, if you want to use Envision VR, you have to install their plugin. Now, this is a very easy thing to do, because once you download the script, which comes into MZP file, all you have to do is just drag and drop in your viewport. As soon as you do this, it will open up a script installer. You just press install EVR controller, and that's it. Once you close this thing, what you're going to notice now is that inside your 3ds Max, at the top, you should have a new menu. Now, this new menu will basically have just a couple of options where you can have one for 360 renders, 360 viewer, reload scripts, and an uninstall button. So we will go over all of these, but for now, you know how to install the Envision VR plugin, and you can continue working in 3ds Max. The scene that I'm using in my 3ds Max is a modified version of one of ArcVis collections of EverMotion. So what I've done here is I've taken one of their models and I've made it into a high-rise building. And this thing actually looks fairly decent and fairly well made, and with some changes to the lighting and by adding in an HDRI, I managed to make it so that when you're rendering it, it looks like this. So the final output of the renders looks like this. If you have your very own scene that you would like to use, you can do the same thing, but I just use this so I can showcase this thing in a fairly well-made and fast way. One of the things you will notice about this scene, though, is does have a few cameras that are coming with it, and those cameras are from the actual file. So we will not be using these, but I just took the time to go ahead and render it so you can have an idea as to how much work has gone into creating these scenes and how they look once they're rendered. So this is the same scene with just a different angle. So now, how do we get it from looking like this to the point where we can use it as an AR or a VR experience with the help of Envision VR? Well, actually, it's not that hard at all. So what we have to do first is I'm going to go ahead and in my Envision VR menu, I'm going to open up the 360 renders option. Now, once we click here, what we're going to see is that we're going to get a new pop-up window, and in here you're going to have some things that you can play around with. The first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and click on the render output and decide where you want to have your output folder. Now what this means is that whatever we create with this 360 renderer, because what this will do, it will create a 360 file that you can then use to check out and see how your scene looks like prior to moving forward. So once you click on here and choose where your output folder is, then you have to set up some cameras. Now, I want to stress this thing. Before you use this, save your scene. The reason being that once you start putting down cameras, it will override any other cameras that you have in your scene. That will remove them. So use this thing at your discretion, but I will note it one more time. Save your scene. And the best thing you can do is just create a second version of your scene and work on that version, so you always have your original version intact. Now, once this thing is made and you have your scene, you can start adding in 360 cameras from the Envision VR. It's fairly simple. The first thing you want to do is you just want to set at what height the camera is going to be. By default, it's placed at 1.5 meters, but you can choose to have it at a taller or a higher height. Like you can, for example, I'm 185, so if I want to see this at my height, I would basically just put it at 185, and this would make it so that when I'm looking at it, it will be like I'm looking at it through my height. So once we have this, now what we just need to do is we need to click where we want to place the cameras. Now, one other thing you want to do is generally what I've found out to be the best approach for this is you go in your top view and you select your ceiling, and provided that you can hide it, this would be the best thing you can do. So hide both ceilings here, and now with the add camera points, I'm going to maximize this, add camera points. So wherever I click now, I'm creating cameras. There we go. 4. All right, let's try one more. 5. Awesome. Now I'm going to unhide the ceilings, and there we go. So as you can see here, we have all of these different camera points. Now the other thing is that you can set up some of the render options for this for these cameras. You can choose which resolution they're going to be rendered at, and bear in mind that this is a preview. So What you're going to do is you're going to choose how long it takes for each camera and at which resolution you want this thing to be rendered at. And once everything is done, you just click on confirm render settings. But there is one more thing that I really want to stress. These cameras do come as physical camera and not your V-Ray camera. So what you want to do is you want to go into your environment setup, or just press on the 8 key, and in here for the exposure control, choose V-Ray exposure control. Now this will give you the ability to change the exposure for the final product. So once we're here, we can just press on the confirm render settings. So let's go ahead and click this. The moment we press that button, we're basically getting this pop-up, which is basically telling you exactly what I told you previously. Make sure you have all of your cameras saved up, because the moment you click on yes, it will remove every other camera in the scene except the ones that you just made here with the add-on. So we're going to click on yes, and render is estimated to take 75 minutes because it will basically be 15 minutes for each camera. So I'm going to click on OK, and let's wait for a bit. Now, first thing is, like I said, here you will actually get to choose how this thing is saved. You can go over the different options, but you don't have to actually change anything. Here you have the maximum render time of 15 minutes all set up. So once you just press on the render, this will basically take 15 minutes for each of the 5 cameras that you created. And now, provided that you've basically added in multiple cameras, you're going to be able to see it down here. So you can see here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for each camera you have 1 step. Now once we click on render, like it said, this will take about 75 minutes to render all of these images. So I'm going to click it, and this thing will start with the render process. And as you can see it in real time, it will start clearing up the scene, and it will start cleaning it up, getting it ready to be viewed with the 360 viewer. Now, just to save some time, I'm actually going to let it render, or basically I'm going to go ahead and show you how this thing looks like without having to wait here for 75 minutes. So be back in a very, very short time for you guys. So I've actually stopped the rendering because I just wanted to save up 75 minutes. And basically I've already done it previously, so I can show you how the final gather is going to look like and what you're going to get on your side as well. So one of the things that I do want to mention here is that you can add different passes to these 360 viewers by going into your render elements and adding different passes, and in here you're going to see them all into the drop down menu. Now the thing about this is, by using these types of different render elements, you have more options that you can basically change, but at the same time this rendering process will make sure that once you're rendered, or once you've rendered your 360 views, you're going to get those passes as well. And I've just opened up on this side how this thing looks like. So once everything is finished, you're going to get, for all of those cameras, you're going to get the different passes as a different image. And at the bottom, you're going to get a file called EVR/numbers, and these are your final gathers for the different cameras. In my actual test render, I actually made 4 different cameras, and this is basically how they look like once they're rendered. So you have this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now they kind of look wonky, but let's see how we can work with what we have over here. So far so good. We've done the camera points, we've done pretty much everything in here. So I'm going to close the EVR 360 renderer, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to close this thing as well. Close this thing. And now in here, we're going to go back to EnvisionVR. Open the 360 viewer. Now the 360 viewer has few options here as well. So basically what we want to do first is we want to find the folder in which we outputted the images that we did previously. By clicking it here, we can search for this file. Now in my case, it's this folder, which I was just showing you. It's this one. But here's the thing. What you want to do is for our EnvisionVR 360 viewer, you want to take only these four, like the final gathers, and you want to make them into a new folder. So just create one new folder and copy those images in here. So once you're inside this folder, you basically have just these four images. These two here will not be in your folder because these will be created once the viewer is finished. So these ones were from my testing run. So all you want to do is have a folder that contains these four images. So once you have that folder chosen, so views, select folder, what you're going to notice is in here, now you have just four images. Now the thing here is you have modes. You have preview mode and you have a final mode. Now once you go to the final mode, that's something you're going to talk to with the guys from EnvisionVR. So for now, we just want to have a preview mode. And you have a tour or an interactive display. And also you can choose how big this thing is. But none of these actually matter that much. So what I'm going to do is, for now, I'm going to just click on the upload images. But before that, we have to enter a title so we know what this is. So let's go YouTube test. Now, upload images. And this will take a few seconds and it will give us a, yeah, here we go. Status upload, image 1 of 4 uploaded. As soon as it uploads all 4 images, it will basically allow us to go ahead and see how our image looks like in a 360. So there we go. Here we go. Link. We copy this thing, or you can just press on the link. It will open it up over here. And there we go. Now we have a fully functional 360 that we can look around in. And it's very cool actually, because wherever you move, you get to see all of this. Now, so far, so good. It's an extra layer of services that you can offer to your clients or the companies that you want to work with. But what more can we do with this? So if we have this, it's pretty much cool looking and everything, but it's far from being finished. So how do we move forward? First thing we want to do is download the apps for EnvisionVR. It comes available for Android and iOS. All you have to do is go into your app store, be it on Android or iOS, type in the search EnvisionVR, and here you will find 2 available apps. The first one being the EnvisionVR and the second one EnvisionVR Design. Download them both, and later on we'll see how both of them work. So when you open up EnvisionVR, you will be greeted by a login screen where you can type in your information, and the same thing would be for the Envision Design app. The next step is actually just sending in your scene over to the EnvisionVR guys, and they're gonna do an amazing job converting your scene into a fully interactable experience. And what they're gonna also do is they're gonna give you 2 chances to have different iterations of your scene. So basically they will allow you to go ahead and change things, and if you've actually messed up something, they will literally try and find that thing and point it out. As you can see in these images in the background, you can actually see some of the errors that they've found out while they were doing the conversion. They pointed it out and they fixed it. So over here again, you can see some issues like at the corners, In the previous images, you could see some other issues, and even here. So all of those small issues will be fixed, which is in the package that they offer. They will literally offer you 2 chances to have 2 different iterations for changes. The first one being at around this point before the actual conversion starts, and the second one generally would come around after you've seen this thing inside the design app. For the next couple of segments, I will use the help of the smart and talented Frosina, a colleague of mine, which you will be able to see in the lower right portion of the screen. As soon as you log in and you open the app, you will be able to add a project. Here, when you click here, the project code for my thing would be DKEM. So you will have this Dennis influencer, and you can click on the actual model. As soon as you click here, the model will open up, and if this is the first time you're opening up this model, it will do some downloading so it's easier to access it, and now you will be able to basically look through the entire scene. But this is the touch and look around version. So what you can do here is you can double click anywhere on your tablet or on your phone, and this will move you through that location. So by just sliding your finger on it, you can look around in the entirety of this scene. As you can see over here, we can move anywhere we want in this scene. We are not constrained to where we initially put the cameras. So when we were doing this thing with the cameras, we basically just put those cameras in there so we can get a feel. But once the entirety of this project has been made, you can actually go around the entire scene. As you can see over here, the cameras did not have any clear viewership of this portion of the house, but here you can just walk around and get a much better feel and scale for this thing. But now, once we're here, what you can do is click on the AR button on the lower left, and this is where it's getting really interesting. So now what is happening is that when you move around with your tablet or your phone, you can actually look around the scene to a much more organic look. Now this is how you would turn your head, you would look around, and here's the very interesting part. Namely, when you get to surfaces that have reflection, they look very interesting and very impressive. So as you can see over here, by just looking around this stove, you can see the entirety of the scene being reflected. And again, the same thing like with previously, just double clicking to a location will allow you to basically look around the scene, which makes this thing a very interactive and very interesting tool to use for yourself or for your clients. Now again, we can move around unobstructed by anything. All we got to do is just double click somewhere, and this thing will shift you over there. And also, provided that you have a large space in which you can walk around, you can actually walk around with your tablet and move the camera with it. So as you can see on the lower side video, by just turning around and walking around, you get to see a lot more of your scene, which again, this makes it very interesting. But the most impressive one is when you're viewing it on the Meta Oculus Quest 2 VR set. Next one up, we're going to open up the EnvisionVR app. And now you're going to notice that things are a bit different. Namely, when you get to the first thing here, is you can see some information about the creator, in this case me, and now you have some information about the actual scene. You can see the property features, property description, you can see a map of the entire model. So this is a very good sales point for any client that might be wanting to sell this. And they can do that before the property is even built. And now, as soon as we're inside the scene, you're going to notice that the format is a bit different. Namely, the movement of the camera is a bit different. And the reason for this is that now this is not driven by your camera or your phone or a tablet, but instead this is driven through a VR set. In my case, it's a Oculus Quest headset, but you can use different types of sets if you have them. And I can tell you from personal experience that as soon as you put this thing on, your model will look amazing. To anybody who actually uses this, they will be awed, because you get a much better perspective on the entire property, on the entire model, and on the scale of everything. And the great thing is that once you're moving around, for example, over here, you can move around by just pointing your analog controller, and you get close to anything, like any surface like we saw previously. You can move around the entire room, and you actually feel like you are in the scene. So, for any company selling a product or selling property like this, and if they can show this thing to their client, this will be immensely valuable asset. So if you have your company or you're working for a company, if you show them something like this, they will be impressed. You will be able to get the job done, and you will be able to increase your business with that company or that client in case. So all in all, this thing I would say is the most impressive thing of it all. And here we are at the end of the video. So I can honestly say that I had a lot of fun working on this video, namely because I genuinely think that the product that EnvisionVR is offering is very good value for your money, and it can offer you a bridge to basically walk over that technical requirements to create a AR and VR experience if you don't know how to do it by using a game engine. So this thing makes it very simple, very fast, and at the same time gives you amazing results. So as a summary and conclusion of this video, I would like to say that if you liked what you saw here, make sure you go back to their website, you check out the courses section of their website, and over there, remember, you have a code which you can type in, which is the Denis Envision 22. You can see it previously in the video, at the start of the video. So by inputting that code, you are viable to be chosen to get a free conversion from Envision. So having said all of this, all that is left to say is that I really hope you guys had fun with this one, and you managed to find yourself a new tool that you can use in your arsenal of skills for your future projects. If you would like to support me, as always, you can click the join button, and the direct links will be in the description below of the video. There's also a thanks button underneath every video of the channel, so now you can use that as well. And as always, the most helpful thing that you can do is just click the like and the subscribe buttons, and just leave your comment below in the video. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.